come to you to share their story. Now, when they're sharing their story, there'll be lots of things come up that they won't realize that are coming up. And what's the emotion like for them? What is it emotionally like for them to, realize things that they didn't even think existed in their psyche? I'm going to call it a psyche, but it's, their conscious, unconscious mind. What's the emotion for you, but what's the emotion like for the author that's realizing, wow, I didn't realize that?
For them, there's different ones. I mean, one is like this utter awe of, oh my God, after, many of the people I work with, they're coaches and they've done years of self-development. And then they come and they write their story and suddenly they make a link between things that they've never made before. So the emotion is one of sheer awe of, oh my God, wow, this astonishment, but also this excitement. And sometimes there's tears, sometimes they go right into it, and there needs to be a layer of cleansing out that needs to happen. And they are surprised by the emotion that overwhelms them and that needs to be flushed out before they can write. And then afterwards, there is this clarity and this, after the rain, after thunder and lightning, it's like the air is so fresh and it feels like that's how they start showing up. And then there's a clearness and a freshness because they've released more of their story.
And then later, after their book's written and people are buying it and reading it and maybe making comment on it, they can see their magic and their brilliance, which is really important for everyone to see who they are. And they're the most important person in the world because they are who they are. But a lot of the time they don't think about that. They don't think they're the most important person in the world. We're all the most important people in the world to us and our families or whomever. But we're the most important person to ourselves, to be honest and real and authentic and original. I like the original bit because I think everyone has this originality about them that they don't let come out and shine.
Yes, and the one other thing that really happens when people write their story for the reader to witness is that they realize how far they've come, because so often we only focus on what we still yet have to achieve that we forget to celebrate the achievements we've already made. And so by actually writing it down and reflecting on their journey, there is this whole new level of claiming themselves and who they've become as the expert that they are, or as the authentic self that they've become. And that's really exciting as well. That's another level, another way in which they embody their essence and their empowerment in a deeper way.
Yeah, and that's exciting. I keep on saying it's exciting, but it is exciting because once a person realizes their brilliance, they can step into that and achieve greatness.
And until we really claim our story as a story that is worth telling, that can't happen. So, we sometimes people say, oh yeah, my life was just normal. I went to school, I studied, I got a job, and I had kids, and I went to work, and that's just that. But why? When we start asking these questions of why did you do that and not something else, and we go these 7 layers deep, and for what purpose, we get to this real unique, we get the unique essence and the unique motivation for why life happened that way. And for some people, they just fall into it. And then that's something interesting to explore too. Like I remember my sister, she always would do what her boyfriends were doing. she didn't have a direction of her own. So she would just buy into and study and do this and whatever. And she would, change with the wind because that was her pattern. And then the question is, but why?
And
And
she
then
couldn't answer it.
Oh, she could. Yeah, we traced it back to her childhood and this need for people pleasing and not really believing in her really deserving to go her own path and forging and claiming her own path. So that happened later. That happened in her 30s for her, doing that. But so it was fascinating. And so, even when life seemingly just happens to us and we live the life somebody else has predetermined for us, which is, I know, many people fall into, even there's a story in that. And the awakening from that then.
Yeah, because, you get married and it's, you live a life together. And what I say is that you need to have different interests and come together for quality time. But that doesn't normally happen. And particularly when you have children and you're working full time and your children are either going to childcare when they're young and then they're going to school, and you get busy and you forget who you are. So you have to bring that out. And that's obviously what you do with your writing skills that you have, your ability to delve into people, I will say psyche again, delve into their psyche and bring out their brilliance and bring out those paths that have been suppressed for a long time, which are actually holding them back.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of the people I work with, they are already quite realized in what they're doing. But there are some who come to me and I say, well, is my story really worth sharing? I know I know I need to write a book. I would love to write my story, but am I ready? Like, I'll do it one day. And it's like, well, we're always ready because there's always somebody who needs to hear what we have to say right now. We're always 2 steps ahead of somebody else who will be inspired by this place where we may not be the biggest coach in the world or the best this or the best that, where we're just on that journey. And it's that humanity that we can then share from that really can inspire somebody, and that vulnerability that we can express that really will open somebody else's heart.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as I said on radio, when someone's sharing their story, and it could be one listener, it could be a lot of listeners that realize I'm not alone. I've been through that. I understand what they're talking about. I'm still there in some ways. Maybe I can contact that person and have a conversation with them so that they can talk it through and go through the realizations of, oh, okay, I know what's holding me back now. This is what I can do to move forward and be the person I want to be instead of conforming, because a lot of the time we fall into that conforming stage in life, particularly when you have a family and you're very busy and all the rest of it. So it's about being an individual, being you, knowing who you are, knowing what your why is, and knowing what you want. It's interesting. I asked a lady one day, I said, what do you want? And she said, what do you mean? What do I want? And I was kind of taken aback because she'd never been asked in all her life what she wanted. She was just going through the motions. And she was in a domestic violence situation and never asked what she wanted. She was just on eggshells and surviving. So when I asked her, she didn't understand what I meant. And that I find really quite amazing, but how many people are out there that don't know what they want because they're conforming to life, or someone's life they're conforming to, not their own.
And I think that question, what do I want, is a really great one for anyone right now to ask themselves, Because as you said, life is so busy that sometimes we are in survival and we're in, I've got to do this and this and this and this. And there doesn't often seem to be the spaciousness to sit down and really ask those questions. But if we don't make those 5 minutes in the morning when we have our coffee or our tea, or just, having a quiet time first thing in the morning to prepare for the day, it's like, how do I want to feel today? How do I want to meet this day? If we don't do that, then it's very easy to go on autopilot and stop living and kind of move away from what we actually maybe want. So asking those questions, what do I want? And why do I want that? And then believing that whatever the answer is something that we deserve, because otherwise it wouldn't come to us. If I want to have that holiday, I deserve that holiday.
Yeah, and deserving it and being true to yourself about the deserving, because a lot of the time when you're so busy, you think, oh, I'd love a holiday, but you never make it deserving, do you? A lot of the time, because you're so busy and you can't find the time to just hop out of this life and move into this one for a week or two. So it's choices. We have choice. And there are some things in life we can't change, but there are a lot of things in life that we can change. And we can change ourselves. We can't change other people, and we don't have the right to change other people. That you can guide, it's like you can guide a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You can guide people to a certain place, but if they don't want to change, they won't change. And it doesn't matter what you do. So therefore, they've got to want to change before anything happens. And that's that want to change.
And I mean, as you said, we can't always change our situation, but we can always change how we engage with that situation. And I've done a lot of healing around being in certain situations that I don't want to be in. That shows me that, okay, there's something within me that keeps me here. So what is it within me that I can change to change contracts, for example, or to change patterns so that I no longer resonate with a situation I do not want to be in?
Yes, so true. So true. I don't think a lot of people, when they're in situations, they're so involved or engrossed in that lifestyle, I suppose you could call it, that they don't see outside that. And they don't think outside that because they're so busy surviving.
And so the people that come into my books are the people that are helping those who are stuck in the rut, for example, to wake them up, to show them that there's another way, to help them to make choices and be empowered in their life. And that's really one of the things that really lights me up. One of my missions is really to awaken and empower humanity so that we have more choice, we have more connection, and we have more sovereignty over our lives.
Yes. And we have to take that power back, not allow someone else to take it away from us and control us. We have to control that ourselves and know that we are. So setting boundaries is a really important thing for everyone, to have certain boundaries, that nobody goes past that boundary, because that's overstepping what you believe in, what you want, and who you are. So boundaries are a really important part of one's life.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing about boundaries is to actually reinforce them.
So that people understand that you have boundaries and they can push those boundaries, but are you going to let go and allow them to push the boundaries and take that boundary away from you? Or are you going to stand steadfast and say, you ain't coming past that. It's not happening.
Yeah. One thing I had to really learn is that no is a complete sentence.
in itself. Yes.
There is no need for justification or rationalization. No. And the other one was, I've changed my mind. Yeah, but you said that. I've changed my mind.
Oh, yes.
Full stop, end of story, no explanation. I think that's one of the really most empowering ways in which we can assert our boundaries. And I really had to learn that because I was such a people pleaser that I've always needed to explain myself. But now it's like, no. Yeah, but no.
And isn't it wonderful when you can actually do that and not feel guilty? Because there is a guilt that's attached to those things. And when you can say no without feeling guilty or justifying why you said no, giving a reason, then how much better do you feel about yourself when you say no? And you can stand up high and say, oh, I actually said no, yes. And
it is a
you don't feel
journey.
bad. Yeah, it is a
It
journey.
is a journey, yeah, because initially we do feel bad and then we feel guilty, and then the other person energetically will pick up on that guilt and will push back until we really really embody that no and make it, because then it becomes bigger, right? We don't need the sentences, we just need to have the no, and we embody it, and therefore it is as big as all of the other words that we might have said in the past.
Yes, it is really interesting. Now,